Hello everyone, Mr. Barden here. I'm just gonna show you a little bit about some of the really basic editing tools that we're gonna start learning this week in class for the sound design course. So I've got this set up right here in a new song session in Studio One. Basically, all I did to get to here was actually, yeah, let's just show you how I got to here. So I'm gonna uh, get rid of that. So I'm in the default setup, and I'm gonna make a new track. So you can either go to track and make a new track, or if you hit the T key on your keyboard, it opens up the add track button window, and you can set the various types. So for this one, we're gonna want audio, but you can do several different types, and we'll talk about each of them as we go through this course. But it's gonna be audio. You're gonna want to give it a name. This will be some piano sounds. You can decide if it's mono or stereo. I know this one will be stereo. And then you can either do some preset effects if you know what you want. Um, you can decide where the microphone input is coming from and where the output is going. So those are some pretty useful tools. You can also set the track color and how many of these you want to make. So if you wanted to make 37 copies of the same track, you could do that. As for the presets, you can check them out. Personally, I recommend not really doing this unless you really know what you want to start with. I prefer to record it raw and then process it later, but that's just my personal preference. I'm going to say add track, and boom, the track pops up. From there, there's a few different ways you can import your files. You could, add stuff, go find it and add it in through the menus. That's takes forever and is a pain in the butt. The browser over here that's open by default, you can go through your files right here and go find it. That also works, but it can be a pain in the butt. You gotta go through all these trees of stuff, which it's fine. Or if you open it up in another window here, you could just drag and drop your file. It's that same one I had, and I just dragged and dropped. If you know you're going to be doing multiple things, you could also just drag and drop. Let me just pick this one just onto a new track, and it'll make the track automatically. So that's just how you can import the files. I'm going to get rid of this other one just because we don't need two files here. Um, so right here is the screen. We can see our track. We can't see all of it. If you want to, there's let me hide me real quick. There's these little triangles in the bottom right corner here. You can use that to control the zoom, but I recommend using the W and E keys faster. W zooms out, E zooms in. I just find that to be a lot faster. So once you have your audio track here, there's a few things we can do. I mentioned last time you could use the split tool to click and split these into multiple files. So now I can click and drag them, and you can move your files around in time. Over here is the beginning. When you press play, and then moving to the right across the screen is time in the future. So this is bars. Maybe we want to do seconds instead. I could put them in different tracks and overlay them. You play these back. Um, and it's playing the everything that's lined up at the same time. So again, if I were to line these up, they'd play together in sync, or you could move them out of sync. But you can make layers of sounds, which is pretty fun. So you can click and snip those longer files into smaller ones. Another thing you can do is in this main tool right here. This first one, if you hover over certain areas of the track, your cursor changes. If you hover over the edge, you'll see that it looks kind of like this, with some arrows and some lines. And what this means is you can click there and you can drag in the clip. So maybe I wanted to remove some of the beginning and only listen to this part here. We don't want this long tail on them. We can, um, you know, trim those in. So that's a useful tool if you don't need a whole recording. Um, Also, when you have one selected, you can click on these little triangles to move in, and this will fade the volume in. You can click the square in the middle of the track to adjust the whole volume, and you can see the waveform shrink and grow depending on what you're doing. You can also make them be not a linear fade out, but have some kind of curve to it. I'll make this one really big so you can see it nice and easy. So again, you can really play around with a lot of stuff. It's quite fun. Um, so that's the main bit. Is again, you can click and drag to rearrange these in time. You can hover over the edge to select just a little subsection of that. The other thing I mentioned is panning, and there's a few ways we can look at panning. This is the way I'm going to do it to be simplest, and that is if you click on mix at the bottom right of your screen, it opens up the mixer window right here. And there's a lot of information here, but basically for every track, you can control effects that you put on it. If you send the audio anywhere else, um, the inputs and outputs, and then we'll come back to this part in the middle because that's what we're going to talk about. You can control whether things are muted or soloed, and then this slider is the volume of the track. So you can bring it up or down or whatever. But in the middle here is this blue bar, and this is panning. So if it's right in the middle, it's panned center or C. That means that the audio is going to come out of both speakers equally. It's going to sound like it's right in the center. If I move it all the way to the left, then you're only going to hear the sound coming out of the left speaker. If I move it all the way to the right, you'll only hear the sound coming out of the right speaker. And you can get ratios of this, so it's uh, you know 41% out of the left speaker. This one's 56 out of the right, and you kind of gets that ratio between them, so you can fine tune exactly what you want in between them, and really get to spatializing is what we call it, making it sound like certain sounds come from different places. And this is going to be a very effective tool when we start talking about mixing later in the year. But yeah, that's the main bits I wanted to talk about right now. Once the whole class is comfortable with all of this, I'll start talking about audio effects and how we can begin to change the sounds rather than just chopping them up and layering them and putting them in different speakers. So I'm going to end this video here, and I will see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.